Harry Don. Consensus building is needless to say the most important factor to enact a bill at a Congress or Parliament. The number of legislative seats of a ruling faction and the number of approvals in the bill deliberation are the most decisive factor out of the elements that makes up bill enactment. So, at the most basic of politics, it is quite normal that each political party takes cooperative attitude to form a faction inside the ruling party to contribute to building a majority consensus to aim for bill enactment. So politicians do wheeler dealing and backdoor deal to increase the number of approvals in the legislative seats before the Congress or Parliament. So basically building consensus inside the Diet for a bill enactment surely empower the government to enforce the enacted bill no matter how hard people protest it. So this is the limit of democracy, that decisions on political management are made by the majority of votes of representative of nations, even if there are so many people who can't even accept an enacted bill. So a society is basically established by oligopoly consensus in a Congress or Parliament on behalf of nations. In a sense, it is perfectly impossible to enact a bill that fulfill everyone's demand fairly as a matter of course. So based on the above, smooth political management is to empower the government to enforce a bill with partial elements of autocracy by prioritization of policy design, and empower the government to force people to accept the bill and obey a bill even while it has a harsh criticism about bill enactment from a people. So, but in Japan, the realm of political consensus building goes beyond and almost reach the consensus of civilians, even though the government is empowered to enforce the policy measures that is once determined at a parliament. So there is one interesting example here. Do you know there's someone's house in the middle of Narita Tokyo International Airport surrounded by runways on all sides? So this is the example that Japanese government wasn't able to force a house owner to give up the house and leave the place because of airport construction. Although the government was empowered to force anyone out of the place for airport construction based on the enacted bill. So in short, there is a case that Japanese politicians read faces of civilians, and they sometimes hesitate to enforce a bill considering civilians complain about the bill even after a bill is enacted at a parliament. So that makes Japanese politicians refrain from taking decisive action to something that has already been decided. So which means in case of Japanese politics, in some cases, civilians' consensus are implicitly contained in a bill enactment or bill enforcement. So this is the cause that Japanese politicians are likely to postpone their decisions and take unclear attitude towards decision making many times. So in a democratic society, consensus building is surely important to make things work. But I think the more the number of people who are involved with a bill enactment increases, the more cases that we have, like they try to find out trade-offs of policy design that makes everyone accept before decision making, and a bill becomes like just a product of compromise that totally loses original political purpose. So in the process of building consensus to aim for bill enactment, empowerment and the prioritization of political objective are the essential factor to be absolutely secured prior to political management. So oligopoly consensus and empowerment to political subject are the most important elements to realize the most ideal democratic society for now. So from the viewpoint of political execution of the Japanese government, at least the Japanese government needed to give more empowerment to each authorities to enforce political measures.